That's actually a pretty impressive little espresso. There you go, check out that grind. It's very fluffy, it's light, it's not clumping very much. That's pretty impressive. And look at that, that is an amazing espresso. Nice, thick, drippy, that is so dark, so rich. That is pretty much what we get in a cafe. So this is the new Sunbeam Origins coffee machine. And I'm going to show you how to dial in our champion blend so you can make great coffee at home. And I'll cover a few of the cool features that I think this machine has very similar to commercial machines, and I'm actually pretty impressed by it all. So firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we've got some fresh roasted beans. We're using our champion blend today, and it's actually 14 days after roast. So we do have a roast date on there, not a batch date, and that gives us an understanding of how these beans are actually going to react. So we'll top up our hopper here. The machine does have an inbuilt grinder, which is great, so you don't have to go and buy yourself another grinder. And it is quite simple and easy to use. It's got a whole range of guides on here, so faster or slower extraction. So that helps you to understand whether what change you're going to make rather than having to know if it's going finer or coarser. So that's some nifty little things. The standard setting on here was actually pretty good for 2-week-old coffee. I've made a couple little tweaks to dial this in, but I'm actually pretty happy with that grinder, how it is. The other key thing is, as those burrs wear out, you can actually reset them so that this does stay consistent over time, which is a really cool feature. So a quick overview of the machine. It is a dual thermoblock machine, which allows you to do espresso and steam at the same time. So you can keep that momentum going and make sure you can pump out quite a few coffees. Just to note, you can't do espresso and hot water. You have to do those one or the other. So if you're making a long black, you'd grab your hot water first, then you'd come back and concentrate on your shot. It's got programmable buttons, both single and double. Now the cool thing is you can fully customize that. You can change the amount of water that goes through them, you can change the temperature on those as well, you can change all of the pre-infusion settings as well. So that's pretty cool to see it in a machine under $1,000. You've got the full manual option as well. We've got a nice easy turn dial here to get steam or hot water. You've got your normal drip tray, and obviously with your inbuilt grinder here, it is quite easy to use. We can just pop it in and grind, but there's this cool little catch tray for the grind. So if you do happen to make a bit of mess, it's pretty easy to clean up. With the portafilter handle, it's really nice to see a full 58mm commercial size handle in this entry-level machine. And a couple little cool things that the commercial guys are using. There's a nice little rubber stopper there. So if you didn't have a tamp mat, you could pop it straight on a bench and you're not going to wreck your bench. So that's kind of cool. You've got a 58mm tamper. It actually does sit magnetically on the top of your machine if you need a little place to put that. Does have a bit of an Italian styling. I think they've done a good change to get away from that real plasticky look and feel, so that's pretty nice. In the kit, you do get a whole range of baskets. You do get these two single and double pressurized baskets. I don't know why they've included them because the machine does have a grinder, but if you're using pre-ground coffee, that's what they're for. You do get your single basket and your double basket as well, and they're the ones that you need to use because you are going to use fresh ground beans with this machine. You've got a little water filtration and softener which you can pop in. I haven't put it in because my water is basically pure water from my tank water, so I'm not using that today, but highly recommend using that one. And you get a little cleaning kit which lives in under the drip tray here, nice and neat. So you've got your backwash basket, a group head cleaning brush, and a little pokey thing to clean your steam tips under here when they block up. So you've got everything there ready to start to make great coffee, and it does come with a pretty easy user manual that you can follow, but Sunbeam does have a great range of videos which you should jump on and watch, particularly about what you need to do before you make great coffee. Now last night, when we started to play with the machine, I had to go and wash everything. So make sure you watch that video. You definitely want to wash it to get rid of all those manufacturing tastes, and use the steam a fair bit because they will taint your first cup of coffee and you don't want to have a bad experience. So make sure you watch those videos. So let's get straight into it. We want to make sure our handle is hot, so we're going to pop that in there and we're going to get some heat into the handle, which we always talk about in any machine. I'm going to be weighing our dose, so I'll be able to show you that quite simply. And we're going to do some WDT and a little bit of NCD, so distributing our coffee grinds, and that is key to make sure that we do get no channeling and a great extraction. Now, I'm going to just quickly check that. I might run a bit of hot water through just to heat it up. When you hit the button, the timer does start, so you can start to see that the pre-infusion there was a bit of a delay. I've got the machine on all standard settings at the moment. And if you do go in and play, the cool thing is you can just press 2 buttons and hold them and they'll go back to standard settings. So don't be afraid to play on this machine. On a commercial machine, that doesn't happen. So they've kind of allowed you the ability to play, but also reset, which is awesome. So I've got the double spout basket here. The single here is a recipe of 7 grams of coffee. So you can use that one to start with. With this one, standardly, just having this the 5 little dots here lined up, straight line with the hopper marker, and I ran a shot, and I've used the standard pre-settings, and I was actually pretty impressed at the kind of coffee that we got. So if you did just get this machine and plug it in and put some of our fresh ground champion blend in there, it's actually going to be okay. Now keep in mind, we are using perfectly aged coffee and our champion blend. If you went and just bought something from the supermarket, it's not going to be that easy. But what you can do is grab your portafilter. We're going to pop in our double basket to start, and it is quite simple with this grinder. If you press it down once, you'll see a 1 activate, which is the single dose coming out. We're going to press it twice to activate our double portafilter, and the dose that was preset on this was actually pretty good. So I'm going to push 2, you can see it's come up there, and there you go. Check out that grind. It's very fluffy, it's light, it's not clumping very much. That's pretty impressive. I reckon giving it a little shake part way through is just going to help us fit the full dose of 20 grams into that basket. For the first cup of coffee in the morning, the best tip I can give you is to actually remove this first ground coffee and discard it, because there will be a little bit of pre-ground coffee that will be in past the burrs and in the chamber there, which will have sat there overnight, dried out, and actually be a little bit unpleasant. So starting with pure fresh grind is definitely the way to go. Now we've got a nice hot handle. We're going to pre-weigh our handle and our dose here, so we'll just tear that off. Make sure we get nice and clean and hot and dry on your handle. We'll pop it in. If we press it twice, we're going to get our double dose of coffee. You can see that that grind is really not clumping. It's nice and fluffy and light, and the anti-static spray system in this machine is actually working pretty good. So we're just going to collapse that coffee a little bit, and we'll weigh that dose. And we've got 21.3 grams. So we're just going to remove it to get down to 20 grams. Spot on. And we're going to pop on a dosing funnel. Now that funnel is going to allow us to distribute the coffee and do a bit of WDT and make sure that we are going to remove any clumping, any air pockets in the coffee bed. So if you haven't seen WDT before, they're a pretty simple little tool, little needlings, and you do really need this funnel because you're going to fluff up that coffee. And you can see just getting rid of any clumps. You do low, middle, and then high. There we go, get it nice and level. And we're just going to give it a tap. A little rubber stopper comes in handy again. Remove our funnel. Just give it a little bit of a clean up. And we're going to use a NCD, our distributing tool as well. Pop that on, couple of turns. And give it a final tamp. Now just firm till it stops. A lot of people over tamp and put way too much pressure on their coffee beds, so you don't want to push through it just till it stops. We're going to brew a double latte in one of these cups. So we're going to lock in our handle, and the easiest way to line that up is come far away to the left and it says insert, so when the handle's locked in in line, you'll be able to go straight up and push it across. Sometimes it can be a little bit firm when you first get these machines, but it will wear in over time. We're going to grab our scale, pop it under our cup, and we're going to tear off our cup. So we're looking to create a perfect brew recipe, which is 1 to 2. So 1 part coffee to 2 parts espresso. And given that we've got 20 grams of coffee, we're looking for 40 grams of liquid yield. So we're going to push our button here. Again, this is the standard settings for double shot. It'll start to the counter, and you'll see it's brewing on the second handle. Let's have a look at that espresso. Nice pre-infusion happening here, a bit of time, it's not coming out real fast. That's actually a pretty impressive little espresso. It's dark, it's chocolatey. That's pretty much what we expect in a commercial machine. So we're looking at our volume as this is happening. That nice thin column is starting to expand a little bit, and we're looking to go for our 40 grams, and I'll stop that right on the buzzer, hopefully. There's a little bit of over extraction happening there, so a bit of timing. If you're going to do a manual brew, keep an eye on the time there. We've got 27 seconds. So overall, we actually ended up with a little bit of an over extraction at 45 grams of end liquid weight, and you can see that here, that pale color that's coming through, that is over extraction. So we want to remove that out of the espresso to get it tasting perfect. So how do we fix this? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and go to a finer grind. And going finer grind will actually give us more time and slow down the extraction as well. So we're going to discard our cup, get rid of our handle, tidy up, and restart that process. So we want to slow down our extraction now and grind off a whole new handle and see what we end up with. It's really simple and easy here. It says slower extraction, so we're going to move the grinder towards slower extraction. Now I want to again grind off a little bit of that old grind, so I'm just pushing it once, which is what the single dose or single basket would be using, and that'll be plenty to purge through any of that old grind. We don't want to have some coarse grind with fine grind. We want to make sure we're using all the same grind. So we'll just discard that. Give it a little clean, and we'll get our double dose of coffee. A little tip, when you're doing a big dose, just give it a little bit of a wiggle left and right, and that'll just settle the grinds and stop making any mess. Pop our funnel on, do our little WDT again. Give it a little collapse. And give it a tamp, and don't tamp too hard. Again, just firm till it stops. And got a little bit of grind there. Love that little tray. That little catch tray is cool. So we're going to do our recipe again. We're going to lock in our handle, pop our cup under and tear off our scale. Press the double shot button again. You hear it building up the pressure with the pump there, vibration pump. It's taking a little bit longer to brew already, so that finer grind is restricting that coffee nicely. And look at that, that is an amazing espresso. Nice, thick, drippy, that is so dark, so rich. That is pretty much what we get in a cafe. So I am impressed by that shot. Now we're going to look at the length of the shot. We wanted to get for our 40 grams of espresso. That was a huge pre-infusion on this machine. So we want to get that 1 to 2 parts of espresso to milk. Now I do find it's actually a little bit shorter on this machine. So I'm actually going to go for 35 grams of espresso. And there's quite a long time there that it does continue to flow through after you press the button. So hopefully that gives you an idea, but just shortening that recipe a little bit is definitely going to reduce that blonding that we've got on the top there. So we ended up at 38. So it's probably like a 1 to 1.8 maybe. So we're looking for that probably 35 grams of espresso when we're using the 20 grams of ground coffee. Now we need to look at milk. So we're going to have to start to froth and prepare for that. Now the best thing to do is grab the jug that comes with it. It's actually a nice little latte art jug. So finally a good jug has been supplied. Now every thermoblock style heating and boiler has to be purged before we start to steam. So we're going to pop the steamer on now and it will purge out some water. There we go. We'll get rid of that moisture. Make sure you grab yourself a cloth so that we can clean afterwards. And we want to start with the right amount of milk. Now for this cup, we're going to start just below the spout. And we like to use a nice full cream milk. This is a local Norco milk. Thanks guys for making great milk. We really appreciate everything that the farmers do. There we go. Fresh and cold milk is awesome. So we're going to turn on the steamer by just turning the dial. We're going to have our jug nice and flat and level, and we're just going to get the tip underneath. Now the steam pressure on this machine is pretty good. You can see that it does build up a little bit and then it will start to make that vortex. We want to lower the jug to get that little hiss, maintaining that spin, and get that constant little hiss to get enough foam for a latte. We want to get that foam introduced before it gets warm. So you can see my hands are on the other side here, touching the jug. And so before 40 degrees, you want to have all of your foam created. Keep that nice silky little sound going. There we go, little hiss. And then once you've got the right amount of foam, just lift that jug up a smidge. It's very easy. Keep it spinning. Getting warm now. Because it is a bit of a slower steam, you've got plenty of time to work with it. There you go, it's too hot to touch. Count 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. We'll turn that off and pop that in the drip tray. Give it a wipe and another little purge so you don't get any build up in the milk. Look at it, it's amazing milk. Beautiful, give it a little swirl. Give it a little tap and don't be afraid to let your milk rest just for a moment to let those bubbles form. So then you can tap them out, give them a swirl. We've got our espresso here, a double shot. Give it a little swirl just to break the crema there. It makes it a bit easier to pour. And let's see what we can get in this cup. Around to create a base. And there you go, a nice little rosetta for you. All right, so silky milk, great espresso, a great pour. How does it all taste? Well, I guess that's the key thing we're looking for. This is going to be a bit more of a milder recipe than we do commercially because we do use the 22.5 grams, but that's tasty. That has got a good amount of body. Some of those real caramel flavors that we talk about from our Champion blend are coming through into this cup. The acidity is good, it's very well balanced, and that's the key of using a perfect fresh roasted and aged coffee. So it's 2 weeks old. We haven't got all of those bubbles that are coming into our espresso because that gas has been taken out of the beans, and it's not the other extent, really old aged coffee where we're not going to get any crema as well. That's actually a really enjoyable cup, and that's the one thing that the Sunbeam Origins has really surprised me about, that straight out of the box you can make a pretty good coffee. Now, if all of that made it a bit confusing, weighing and doing WDT, the best thing you can do is jump on and grab yourself one of our guides. It's a downloadable option on our website, and it'll take you through all of that process. Now, whether it's dosing, you need some help, or tamping, frothing, extracting, or pouring, it's all in our home barista manual. Now, the one thing I know you're thinking about is, how do I super geek my coffee? Well, we all enjoy different coffee, and here I've got some single origin, our organic delicate, our main Champion blend, and our fix. And I've just gone through and told you what we want to do to dial in the Champion. Now, every coffee is different, and a couple of the key parameters that you want to think about is obviously grind size and also the temperature of the water that's being applied to these coffees. Now, the lighter the roast that you go, something like a single origin or the delicate, we want to look at a higher temperature. We probably want to be around 96 degrees to help try and dig into that bean, which is still a bit harder and dense because it hasn't been roasted as much, to get more of the flavor out. We normally go for 92 degrees on our Champion, and in the Fix, because it has been roasted a little bit more, you can come down to say 90 or 91 degrees, and that's going to help get some really good flavors out of them. In the Sunbeam Origins machine, you can change the temperatures of these very easily. You can change them in 2-degree increments. For me, just not quite enough there. We do want to be a bit more accurate, but it's great to see that you can change the temperature of the water for the different type of coffee that you're going to enjoy. Well, hope that's given you an insight into the Sunbeam Origins machine. For me, it's been over 20 years since I last played one of these machines, and to say that I'm impressed on this, well, yes, I am. There's a lot of tech in a under $1,000 machine that we see in commercial machines that you can get in and play with and not be afraid to experiment, because that's what it's about with coffee, getting the right roast and dialing it in perfectly. So thank you very much for Sunbeam for sending us this machine. We are going to give this exact machine away to one lucky person. So keep an eye out on our Instagram in the next week or so. We'll put the details there on how you could win this machine. And keep in mind, look at this manual as well, because it does help you dial in your specific recipes. So thanks very much for watching, guys. We appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe, hit the bell when you can, so you get notified of our latest video. And if you've got a question about the Sunbeam Origins, please leave it down below and I'll happily answer that for you. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.